It's very soft. A lot of middle there. A particular set of books. Hi, I'm Sock Marionette, doing business as Bargain Counter Argument, and I'm a middle-aged lady in a tiara talking about books. It's a very bright day here in central Connecticut. Kind of brisk spring day. I'm wearing my pink spring sweater. It's very soft. Very good weight for this time of year. And it's really a great day to get stuff done. And today's stuff that I want to get done is a book unhaul because they're going back to the library. So this is just a roundup of the library books I've read over the last few days. 2, 4, I have 8 to go back today. I'm going to start with Middle Grade March. I read One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia. It is about a young girl. In 1968, she lives in Brooklyn with her father, her grandmother, and her 2 younger sisters. Their mother walked out on them several years earlier and now lives in Oakland. So her dad decides that they should go visit their mother. He kind of makes this unilateral decision. They don't want to go. Their mother doesn't want them to be there while she's doing her stuff, because it turns out her stuff is writing activist poetry and being involved with the Black Panthers. So they go out to Oakland, and their mother sends them off to the community center that's being run by the Black Panthers, where they do free breakfasts and stuff. This is like all historically accurate. And they kind of learn some stuff about themselves, their mother, and their social context. It's really good. It is actually the start of a series, a duology, a trilogy. I'm not sure. I believe this came out in 2010. And yeah, 2010. It's really good. I liked it. Oakland 1968. Black Panthers. Awesome. The other middle grade book I read for Middle Grade March, a lot of middle there, is another book I really, really liked a lot, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. Is it meets? Yes, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn, who also illustrated it. Beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Look at that. Oh my gosh. And this is kind of a fable. It's really good. It's a fable that's sort of set in a fantasy historic China. And I really liked it a lot. And it's a quest that she goes on, this young girl, and she meets lots of interesting people along the way, and it's kind of a little bit reminiscent of The Wizard of Oz in some ways, but I think everything is reminiscent of The Wizard of Oz, or at least all the best books are, because I love Wizard of Oz. And yeah, it's really good, and the basic lesson is just kind of like, be kind, be happy with what you have, but not complacent. And also, monkeys are kind of jerks. And there are a lot of stories within the story, which I always like to see as well. Moving on to another March theme. It's awkward to edit because I forgot what it's called. It is March Mystery Madness. There we go. I kept wanting to say mystical. I don't know. And this is from Killing Time with Cozies. And the mysteries aren't necessarily cozy, but there is also a prompt for this month, a couple of prompts. It's just like a book that takes place in a country you don't live in, and a book that has been translated. You don't have to follow the prompts. Just read one mystery and you've participated. I decided, however, that I wanted to read some Japanese mysteries in translation, so I asked for some suggestions and I got them, and one of them is the Kamagawa Food Detectives, which is about a guy who runs a restaurant with his daughter, and you come in and you describe a meal you had in as great detail as you can, and they try to recreate it for you. It gets a lot of comparisons with Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I liked this better personally, but I did very much enjoy it. And yes, kitty! And then another one that was recommended, which is very different, very much more like a horror kind of thriller, and that is Strange Houses by Kitsu. And I really liked it a lot in a very different way. It's about this guy who realizes there are some floor plans for a house that don't make any sense. They have like this weird kind of dead space, and like the the way the bathrooms are positioned and the windows are positioned is really weird. So he and some friends of his try to figure out what is going on with these strange houses, because there's more than one. Also in the mystery department, this is one I just happened to see on the shelf. And let's see, when did this come out? This is from 2025. It is 7 Reasons to Murder Your Dinner Guests by KJ Whittle. I read this, my mother read it, we both liked it. It is about this woman who is invited to a mysterious dinner party. There are 6 other guests, and the meal culminates with them getting a card that says how old they will be when they die. And they're just like, okay, this is weird, but whatever, man. And then they start dying at exactly the age the cards predicted. What is going on? What? I liked it, my mother liked it, so it was like a little book club of 2. And then there's a nonfiction book, A Morbidly Curious. A Scientist Explains Why We Can't Look Away by Colton Scrivener, PhD. And this is, he's looking at morbid curiosity, like why do people kind of rubberneck at traffic accidents, and why is it that sometimes we don't want to look at something gruesome and yet we can't stop ourselves for some people. And a lot of it also comes out of his PhD thesis, which had to do with people who watch horror movies, especially slasher movies like Friday the 13th and so on. And for example, with the horror movies, the kind of supposition is that people who can watch those kinds of movies are somehow lacking in empathy. And in fact, the research showed that they're no more or less empathetic than anybody else who doesn't watch horror movies. However, they do tend to score higher on having anxiety issues, anxiety disorders, and just generally more anxious than the population at large. And the supposition there is that horror is a way to sort of channel those anxieties and rehearse fear, rehearse anxiety, so that you can kind of process it in an environment you know is safe, like in your living room or in a movie theater or something like that. And there's a great quote: if you are inexperienced at regulating intense negative emotions such as fear or anxiety, it can lead to behaviors that put you in danger or prevent you from resolving conflict. When it comes to feelings of fear and anxiety, there is no better sandbox than horror. For many people, horror media is a safe place for them to challenge themselves or work through difficult emotions. For those people, horror can serve as terrifying therapy, which I thought kind of is an excellent summation of his findings and the findings of other scholars in the field. And now we have a couple of romances. Calamity by Constance Fay. This is the first book in the Uncharted Hearts series. I think there are 3 books now, and I don't know if it's complete. I think it's interconnected standalones. I liked it okay. I was kind of more intrigued by some of the side characters than I was by the main characters. The next book in the series, Fiasco, is about one of those side characters that I found particularly fascinating. So this is like science fiction adventure with a fair amount of romance, or maybe it's science fiction romance with a fair amount of adventure. Anyway, I enjoyed it, and I am going to be reading the next 2 books as well. I don't know if I'm going to read them right away, though, because I got some other priorities. So and like I said, it didn't end on a cliffhanger, so it's not like I feel compelled to read the next one right away, but I do have it available to me. And finally, my favorite book of this particular tranche of books, this particular set of books, Starshipped by Cat Sebastian. I love Cat Sebastian. I haven't read everything she's written, but I really enjoyed her You Should Be So Lucky and We Could Be So Good, which were queer romances set in the late 1950s, early 1960s. This is a contemporary. It's her first contemporary. She's written other historicals that take place like in the Regency era and so on. But yeah, my mother really objects when I call romances from like the late 50s and early 60s, when I call them historical romances. And I'm like, yeah, but it's queer historical romance, and the context, the social context around queerness and queer lives has changed so much. And she's like, I guess so. I got married in 1960, you know. Anyway, so this is a contemporary, and it's so good. I buddy read this with my pal Abby Jean, and oh my gosh, we had so much fun with it. It's about these 2 guys who are co-leads in a science fiction show, and they have been kind of antagonistic toward one another, and now they have a chance to get to know each other better, and romance ensues. I really liked it so very much, and yeah, I'm very happy that Cat Sebastian decided to try writing contemporary romance. So those are the books that are going back to the library. What's coming home with me? What? I'm not sure. Probably not a whole lot. I have a book on the whole shelf, which is another Japanese mystery. I can't remember which one though. And I also want to pick up a nonfiction book. So they will probably show up in future book unhauls because they're going back to the library videos. So thank you for watching this. If you enjoyed what happened here, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I am not the boss of you, and I hope you have a good day or night.